Hello, it's Lou Collins. Today I've got another template for you. This one's called the double stand card template. Now there's two ways you can use this one as well, so we love versatility and getting the most out of our products. This is free for you to download on Craftworld, so go along and save it to your computer, print it off, or if you're really brave you could maybe follow along and see if you can replicate the template. But what I'm going to use here is, I've actually started with what my pattern paper is going to be. So I really love this pattern paper. This is from a special day collection from Simply Made Crafts. So Helen Griffin's designed this. Love, love, love this paper. I'm only going to use a small amount of this really, but I've chosen this as my focal point. So I've then gone ahead and found 3 coloured cardstocks that will match with this. So I've got white as my base. That's going to be the main base for the card. I usually go with white. I'm going to have mats and layers of that. I'm going to have a green as one of the layers, and then my sentiment's going to be in this lovely coral peachy colour. All works together nicely. So I've also got these as well actually. I'm going to bring these in. These are from Textures. They're from the Wildflowers collection, which is just released in December. And they've got some lovely big sentiments that I can die cut and put onto this as a standout sentiment. So let's get on with the first part. Let's pop everything aside except for the white, because this is what I'm going to be creating this from. Now, as always, I'm going to bring in my adhesive. So this is a spray adhesive. This is stick and spray, and it's repositionable. So I can just reuse this over and over again if I want to. It means my template is then reusable, and I'm not having to keep printing it off every time I want to use it. So pop that onto my paper, on my cardstock. Maybe do a little test piece first on the cardstock that you're using to ensure that the sticky spray won't peel off any fibres of your card, anything like that. But usually it is repositionable. It's very low tack, so you should be absolutely fine. Now I'm going to bring in a trimmer. This is my Creative Craft Products trimmer. I'm going to go around the entire edge of the card here. So the solid edge is always a cutting edge, and I'm keeping this because underneath the template here is some plain white cardstock that I don't want to throw away. So I'll keep that, put that to the side, put them in my scraps box, my ever-growing scraps box, and take all the edges off of all 4 sides. And one more. I like with these templates that the lines are nice and chunky, nice and bold. Even when I don't have my glasses on, I can see them quite clearly. Now what we want to do is, I'm just going to bring the blade up to the top there. We want to place these solid lines, I would say vertical or horizontal, but it depends how you're holding your cardstock. So these solid lines in the middle, all 4 going the same direction, we want to place them into where your blade goes as well. So just lining this one up inside the track there, and then I'm just going to lift my blade up and I'm going to put it down just at the top of the line there, and then down to the bottom. Doesn't matter if you go ever so slightly over, it's better to go slightly over than slightly under. And I'm going to move this along and do the same for all 4 of these lines. So take your time with this bit. There we go. So if you turn this over, you should be able to see I've got my 4 cut lines there now ready. So now I need to go ahead and score my dotted lines. So I'm going to use my scoreboard here. Again, Creative Craft Products. I did lose the scoring tool for this somehow. I think it fell in my bin because it has literally disappeared off the flat face of my craft room. So presumably it's in the bin, so I'm going to have to use another one. So I'm going to grab one from, this is the Made to Surprise craft wallet, and inside here there is a nice big bone folder. So I'm going to use this one. And just pop each of your score lines along one of the score lines on the scoreboard and go right through both your template and your cardstock. Now this one is a really chunky bone folder, so I'm having to be careful just to put the very tip into the groove that I want. And then I'm going to repeat that with each of these other lines too. So now I've got my score lines on the back, I'm not sure you can see those, and I've got my cut lines. I can remove my template. Pop that to the side, I'm going to reuse that in a moment. So what we've got here is we've got our fold down the middle first of all. So bring back the bone folder. Where did I put that? Let's just fold this along these lines. Then what's going to happen is this centerpiece that you've just folded in is going to actually push out. So you're going to fold that in the opposite direction. So this long piece here, if I bring the template back in actually, just so you can see. So this long one here, that's going to push outward, inwards. You can just see. So this one's now a valley, this one's a mountain. And then we're going to do the same here. So along the small ones, we're going to have valley, mountain, valley. So we're really sort of concertina folding each of these. I like to fold my card in half first. So when you start folding, you should see that you get this sort of shape. So these start to stick out from the rest of the card. Now, as we fold our card in half, that should all fall perfectly into place. So use your bone folder just to smooth that down, secure everything. My scoring's always not 100% accurate, so it's a good idea to do it this way. Make sure it will go flat into your envelope, and then you should open it up and have this shape. Now, you've got two options. Well, you've actually got three options. So you could have this so it has almost steps up. So if you have it, so this is the base, and you've got your steps up. You could have it, which is the way I think I'm going to have it, so it's very similar, but much steeper, so it's higher at the back. So this is the base, like so. Or you could have it so it stands up like this, and this is the left-hand side, this is the right-hand side, so the steps come out to the side. There's lots of different ways. You could have things overhanging that way. This, if you had it at this orientation, you could have things overhanging that way, and your message on here. You know, there's lots of different ways of doing this card. I love a basic card shape, like I say, it's versatile, and we can use it for multiple things. But I think this is the way I'm going to be using it. So the next thing I need to do is my decoration. I'm going to pop that to the side because I'm going to come back to this, and this is where I'm going to be popping this down onto the patterned cardstock that I love. So from Simply Made Crafts, and this is the what's it called? A Special Day. A Special Day was a collection that Helen bought out not that long ago. It was back at the end of 2022. A beautiful collection, all based around weddings and anniversaries and such. So what I'm going to do first of all is loosely cut the area that I want to work with, and I'll do the same in a moment for the top piece. So just so that you can see how I usually go about creating a matten layer from the template, is I put this back into position. You might need a little more glue there. And what I tend to do is I do it by eye, but you can measure and take yourself around about 5 millimeters all the way around the edge. Now I'm obviously drawing this on very loosely. Hopefully you can see this as an example of how I do my cutting. So I'll do that all the way around the edge. You can mark that with a pencil if you like, and then I'll cut that smaller panel out. This is fine if you're happy not to use your template again. If you want to use your template again, I would suggest you have a spare one maybe that you can use. Now I'm going to actually, because that just moved a little bit, I'm going to put a bit more glue onto this, a bit more sticky, just to ensure that it doesn't shift around. Pop this back on there, line up that cut line that I just started doing. There we go, that's better, it's holding much better now. So, as I say, I tend to do this by eye, but if you want a more accurate matten layer, definitely get your ruler out maybe and mark with a pencil your lines. So I'm going to go around all of this base shape, and then I'm going to repeat the same for the top panel as well. There we go. So now I can take a small glue. I'm going to just use my fine tip applicator glue. Just check this first of all, make sure your panels line up exactly how you expected them to. If you've used reused the template, it shouldn't be any reason why they wouldn't fit. And I'll just run my glue all the way along the edges and then a little bit in the middle. There's one. And then the same again. all the way around the edge. Make sure you've got a nice, fairly solid line around the edge of your card, or rather cardstock paper, whichever you choose to use. Lightweight paper is fine for matting and layering if you're gluing it down flat. If you're wanting to adhere your mats and layers with some foam tape, it's usually a good idea to use a stronger cardstock for that, so it can hold its own where there's no foam underneath. There we go. So now we've got perfect mats and layers on there. So the next stage is to add a little bit of colour to this. In fact, I was going to have this up this way. So I want to add green to, do you know what, I think I'll add green to here. Now I could use the template, but I think it's just as quick if because they're nice easy rectangles, if I just mark the width and the length of this one, and then the same here. So I'll do the width, I'll do the height in a moment. So let's bring in my trimmer, put that to the side. Let's just go there. Now, oh, that's the scoring blade. I'm often making that mistake. I should have used a pencil really, or what I often use is my pokey tool. So that should be, I will pop that round that way, like so. And then let's see if this is going to be the right width. I might need to actually trim this down a little. So let's see, will that fit in there? Yeah, it needs to come down ever so slightly. Rather than marking it, I'm actually being a bit naughty and just guesstimating it. There's no rules in papercraft, apparently. There we go. Okay, now before I glue those on, while I'm preparing things, I'm going to take one of these, let's say Time Flies. I think that's a nice one, isn't it? So Time Flies, and I'm going to cut that from this lovely peachy colour. So pop this through my die cutting machine. This is from the Textures Wildflowers collection, as I said earlier. I think they're still available. I think there's still some available on Craft Stash. So pop this through my die cutting machine. It cuts beautifully. All of the sentiments cut absolutely beautifully, despite the fact they're actually really quite large. And there's quite a lot of detail in them as well. So we like a die that doesn't give us any bother. It's really warm in here today, so let's pop the pin back in my glue. Pop the tape off of there. And with a pokey tool, oops. There we go. So Time Flies. It could go on the top or it could go on the bottom. In fact, it could hover between the two. So let's glue these on. Again, let's make sure we go round the edge. I think I've got a little bit of, it's dried out. I said it's quite warm in here today, so I think it's already started to dry up. So let's just pop that in there. I shouldn't have left it out. There we go. That's better. So just keep the pin in the top and use that. Wiggle it about in there in the nozzle a few times. It usually unblocks it quite easily. And then the same on this one. Just lifting that up. There we go. So we've got our mats and layers, and then this. I'd probably want to, if I had more time, I'd stabilise this. I think I'm going to actually have this so it's almost floating in the middle. So I only want to put some glue onto the base of the Time Flies. Just a little bit of squeezing it. There we go. I knew that was going to happen. I could feel that. There's a blob of glue. That's what was blocking it. So let's try again. Make sure you've got a good amount of glue on here if you're only having part of it. Let's put that needle in straight away. The pin in the nozzle. Can't get it in. There we go, because I'm doing it with the wrong hand. And pop this down just on there. So making sure that doesn't quite overlap there. Then when we open it, the time flies. It's got a nice drop shadow behind. If we want to put some gems on there, we can do, make more of a feature of it. I wouldn't put any 3D items on there, like flowers, for example, because of course you want the entire card to fold flat. But that is the template for you. You can go and find that. It's the, I can see it here, the double stand card template. So you can find that, download that off of Craftworld, and we'd love to see what you make using this template in the inspiration gallery.